Welcome back to the Bourbon Battalion on YouTube. Today we got a blind, and this blind is fire. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can follow along for more videos like this. If you like this content and you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button. On today's blind, we have got some fire in this lineup, and I am super excited for this blind. I am a huge Jim Beam fan. I love Bookers. I love Little Book. The goal of today's blind is going to be, are these allocated, harder to find, limited releases from Jim Beam worth the hunt and significantly better than their easier to find counterparts that you could generally find without hunting as much? I'll be using the Whiskey Solo blind to do this blind, and within that blind, we have the Little Book Chapter 9, None for Granted. We have the Little Book Infinite, release number 1. We have Booker's 2024-03, the Master Distillers batch. And we have one of my favorites, the Booker's Reserves, release number 1 from 2024. I love all of these bottles. And as I said, the Booker's Reserves is one of my favorite bottles. So let's see in a blind, is it significantly better than its counterpart that you could find on the shelves a lot more regularly? All right, we've got my Whiskey Solo blind. Let's get this thing spun up here a little bit. We're gonna start on my left and work our way to my right. First glass here. Standard Jim Beam. A lot of vanilla on that. The vanilla is very pronounced on the nose for this one. Let's check the nose out on number 2. So 1 definitely has a better nose than number 2. I will say that. Trying to cleanse my nose a little bit. I feel like the nose on number 2 and number 3 are not as good as the nose on this one. Yeah, the nose on number 1 is absolutely incredible. Check out the nose on number 4 here. Very interesting. The nose on 2, 3, and 4 are pretty similar. Number 1 really stands out to me. I feel like number 2 on the nose has a little bit more rye spice to it. There's some leather on the nose. You're getting more dark notes, more savory, more complex notes compared to the others. The nose is really nice on that one. And don't get me wrong, I love all these bottles, so these are all great. 1 just really stands out above the 4 on the nose. Yeah. Wow. All right, on the nose, I have our Whiskey Solo blind tasting sheet, and all I'm going to use this for is to kind of jot down some things. So on the nose, I am going to rank these. Number 1 by far had the best nose. Number 2 had the second best. Number 4 had the third best, and number 3 had the number 4 best. All right, let's taste the whiskey. The sweetness that I was getting on the nose doesn't transfer over to the palate. The palate, I get the classic Jim Beam nuttiness. There's some plum on the palate. There's a little bit of cinnamon. There's some black pepper. The palate's really, really nice. It's just not as sweet as I was expecting after smelling it. Cleanse my palate here, and we'll go on to sample number 2. Ooh, wow. That is delicious. There's some bright fruitiness on that I was not expecting. There's like some stone fruit. I'm getting some vanilla, caramel, some oak tannins. Very, very viscous. It coats the mouth very well. That is, wow, number 2 is great on the palate. Move on to sample number 3 here. Number 3 definitely has the least amount of depth on the palate between the first 2 and number 3. There's a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of the nuttiness. There are some herbal notes, some slight baking spices. The palate isn't bad, but number 1 and number 2 stand out above this for sure. Let's move on to sample number 4. Yeah, that one stands out above number 3 as well. Brown sugar, vanilla, Jim Beam nuttiness, some black pepper, some cinnamon. I'm going to take one more sip here of number 3, but I feel like I can comfortably rank number 3, number 4 as far as the palate. Wow, number 2 is exceptional on the palate. That is really freaking good. Yeah, I feel very confident that number 3 can be number 4 as far as the palate goes. And honestly, I'm going to put number 3, number 4 as far as the finish goes as well. The finish kind of matches the palate for this one. For number 3, there's not a whole lot of depth and complexity. It's just kind of I get like a very straightforward vanilla, nutty vibe kind of going on with it. Again, it's not bad by any means. It's just not nearly as complex as the others. So I'm confidently going to put number 3 in 4th place for this blind. If you've watched this far in this video, make sure you smash that subscribe button and leave me a comment. What is your favorite Jim Beam release? Are you a fan of the Bookers? Are you a fan of the Little Books? What is your favorite release that you've had that is a part of the Bookers lineup or the Little Book lineup? Diving back into this, we'll go with number 1 here. That is, wow. Very, very good. That's delicious. A lot of vanilla, a lot of caramel. There's some nuttiness. There's some leather, some tobacco. There's some cinnamon on there as well. That finish is really nice. A lot of people complain with I don't want to say complain, but they take note of the punchiness of these Booker's releases and the Little Book releases. Me personally, it doesn't bother me. I'm a fan of it. One of the things that I love with Booker's, Little Book, Jim Beam in general, is if you are a bourbon traditionalist, these are right up your alley. I love those traditional bourbon notes, traditional bourbon profiles, and Jim Beam to me really delivers on that. On number 1, through the finish, I get a lot of cinnamon. There's some leather. There's like some dustiness to it. This is really, really good. I don't even know how to score it. Man, that is good. All right, let's take another sip here of number 2. Wow. The palate is fantastic on that. That stone fruit that I mentioned on the first sip really is pronounced on this, which I really like. I don't get that stone fruit a lot with the Jim Beam, Booker's, Little Book products. So I really like that stone fruit, almost like a raspberry, strawberry custard type note. The finish, I get more of that like dustiness that I was getting on number 1. There's a little bit of funk to it, almost like a rickhouse funk, a barrel funk. There's some leather, there's some tobacco, some sweet, sweet oak tannins. Man, I think this one has the best palate and finish, in my opinion, between these two. And let's move on to number 4. Cleanse my palate real quick. Wow. There is a very stark contrast between these two and these two. I would say that this one and this one have a similar profile on the nose, have a similar profile on the palate. I feel like these two are very, very similar. This one, the palate is not nearly as good as it is on this one. There's a lot of vanilla. It's just not quite as complex. So there's some toffee on there. The finish, I will say the finish is very nice. The finish is very, very viscous, a lot of vanilla, a lot of caramel. There's a sweeter profile to this one than these two. These two, I noted that I picked up that barrel funk, the dustiness. This one doesn't have that. It's just very sweet, and it rides that sweetness through the finish, on and on and on. Oh, this is tough. So, man, I feel confident saying that one, this was our number 4 sample. That is our 3rd place winner. Now, we are down to number 1 and number 2. I feel like these are both really close. I might lean one way, but I'm going to take one more sip just to be sure of my rankings before we reveal which one is which. That is fantastic. Yeah, that is a whole lot of vanilla, toffee, that caramel peanuttiness. When I think about like caramel and peanuts, it's toffee to me. There's some black pepper, cinnamon, some nice spiciness that intermingles with that sweetness very, very nicely. Man, just to be able to differentiate between the two of these, I am going to give each of these a ranking. Number 1 on the nose is going to be a 9. The palate is going to be a 7. And the finish is going to be a 7. These are not definitive rankings for these two. This is just for me to be able to differentiate between this one and this one. All right, let's dive into number 2. Wow. I'm still getting a lot of that stone fruit, that sweet stone fruit, vanilla, raspberry, custard. The nose, I am going to give an 8. Let's take a sip. Wow. That is delicious. I'm going to give the palate a 9. And I'll give the finish a 7. With that being said, that means number 1 is going to be our 2nd place ranking. Number 2 is going to be our 1st place, but I gotta tell you that the difference between this one and this one is essentially splitting hairs, and to me, I feel like it's almost profile preference. If you like that dark stone fruit fruitiness with the mix of the sweet vanilla caramels, some layers of spiciness on the finish, I feel like number 2 is going to be your pick. I feel like if you like that sweet wave that rides from the front of the palate, mid palate, the whole way through the finish, I feel like this one is going to be your pick. I feel like there is a drop off from here to here to here. So our 4th place finisher is going to be I had to use these slips of paper because I lost one of my tags that comes with the Whiskey Solo blind, so this is what we're using. This was the best method I could think of to not spoil the blind. Okay, so our fourth place in the clear drop-off between the first three is the Booker's 2024. I wrote down the 01 batch, but it is the 03 batch. Booker's 2024-03 batch. This is the Master Distillers batch, and this is coming in at a very clear fourth place with a big drop-off from the rest of them to this. Try to keep these in order here. Our third place finisher is going to be all right. Our third place finisher is the Little Book Chapter 9. The Little Book Chapter 9, this was last year's release. This is coming in at 121.8 proof. This is another great release from Jim Beam. This was, to me, just a very clear step down between number 1 and number 2. To me, the number 1 and number 2 here and here, those are in their own tier. This one was in its own tier, and then the Booker's 2024-03 was in a tier of its own on the bottom. Which, again, don't get me wrong, that is not to say that the 2024-03 is a bad batch. It just was a clear drop-off from these. So our second place winner is going to be, I'm really excited to see if the Booker's Reserves or the Little Book Infinite came out on top. Before I reveal this, I haven't seen it. My bias going into this blind would have picked the Booker's Reserves. So let's see if it was truly a bias or if my palate is correct. Wow. So going into this, I had the Booker's Reserves as my clear favorite. The blind put the Booker's Reserves in second place. So as I said, the Booker's Reserves and the Little Book Infinite, to me, it really comes down to like almost like a profile preference. The Little Book Infinite in this blind, I picked up a whole lot more stone fruit. The palette on the Little Book Infinite was complex the whole way from the front of the palette the whole way through the finish. I liked the layers of the sweetness, the stone fruit, the oak, the leather, the tobacco, the cinnamon with some like peppery notes. So that is why I place this one above this. The thing I will say with the Booker's Reserves is that traditional, the vanilla oak caramel with some like toffee, the Jim Beam peanut note, herbal notes, some rye spice, black pepper, cinnamon. If that is what you like, I think this one would be your preference. And I mean, both of these are absolutely fantastic. So the purpose of this blind was, are these better than their counterparts that you could find on the shelf a lot more regularly than you can either of these? And to me, the answer is a clear yes as a result of this blind. Don't forget, a blind is the best way to test your palate and to remove any bias to the best of your ability. Obviously, I knew what was in this blind, but I didn't know, was it going to be one of the premium offerings or was it going to be one of the less premium offerings? So tonight, my palate said these two are worth the hunt and worth the money that you could spend to get either one of these. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the results of this blind. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're still here. I appreciate all the subscriptions. I appreciate all the subscribers. I'm growing on this channel and it is an absolute blessing, and I am super excited to see what we build going forward. Make sure you like this video, share this video with a friend, leave me a comment and let me know what you think about the results of this. Cheers.